and that's how that came about. And I had just freshly come back from the UK, and then I think I saw it through LinkedIn, and I signed up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly it.
That's awesome. So what is your husband's in the service?
He was.
Okay.
He is retired as of November.
Okay, well, congratulations to him. I bet that's a different life too now.
Exactly right.
It's always just like an adjustment. You get used to one thing, and then like the next thing comes along.
It definitely is, but it's going so far so good.
Awesome. So when did you enter the fellowship program?
I entered actually like a while ago, so it was like, I would say about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, I heard that Lowe's was doing for military spouses,
Mm-hmm.
but they hadn't had the program up and running yet.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, because I think with the fellowship it's like 3 months, and if after 3 months nothing happens, they kind of get dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that Lowe's had this in mind, so I kept contact with Rebecca. And so when finally, it was like 6 months later, I think, when Lowe's went ahead and wanted to start with the military spouse program, that's when I came in the picture. So I think I started in December of last year. I started with the fellowship. So it took such a long time. And then, of course, they picked me back up because that was part of the fellowship that I was going through hiring out the res.
Yeah. Do you mind if I record so I can write down some of your answers?
No, go ahead.
Okay, great. So so you've been with Lowe's now for how long?
As a fellow, I was with Lowe's from December of 2023 to February of 2024. So it was only like a 12-week program.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got hired off literally like the next week. So I've been with Lowe's since February 19th.
Nice. I bet that felt good.
Absolutely. It felt terrific.
So what did you learn in your fellowship? Like what would you do? Like, did you rotate around to different positions or?
No, so they primarily had me in appliance. So just learning the logistical things of appliance, from delivery, how to look up deliveries, how to be able to pull up appliances,
Mm-hmm.
just every other, and just more product knowledge, getting more familiar with that. So when I engage with customers, I have a little bit more basis as far as what features they have and if this is something right for them. So a lot of logistical back-end things like, the deliveries and knowing how to track the deliveries,
Mm-hmm.
and just, fixing certain things. If there was something that was wrong, going in there and fixing it, to the front end where, you're basically engaging with customers and they're asking you a lot about product. What's the best is usually the question that I get asked a lot.
Totally.
And just being able to engage constantly and know, okay, these are the features with this one, this is the features with that one, and so forth.
Did you find like you connected with one of the like areas you worked in more so than others? Like, did you like front end better, or like did you like being in the back end systems?
To be honest, both.
That's great.
I just like to be kept busy. So if the front end's a little slow, I don't mind doing a little back end work or pedaling around, making sure that, okay, this needs to be put away or something like that. Whatever keeps me busy.
And you're in Florida, right?
Yes.
Okay, nice. I'm a big Florida fan, so I'm jealous
yeah.
that you get to live there. Although this time of year I get a little less jealous because it's so warm.
It's hot, yes. You can say it.
So what surprised you about the fellowship and like working for Lowe's? Like, have you liked it more than you thought? Like, what's it been like?
It had been such a long time for me because I was a physical therapist assistant
Mm-hmm.
for 15, 17 years. I don't even remember. So I've always worked in a hospital setting, going up and in the hospital, whether it's outpatient or in acute in the hospital, working with patients, going in and out of rooms. So it was a totally different left field. But being a military spouse, there's a point where you have to say, I have to put my hat down,
Mm-hmm.
because no place is going to keep hiring you every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And they always ask you, they always ask you. I've quit 5 times just because of the many moves that we have.
Yeah.
And the first interview question has always been, when does he PCS? And it's just like, gosh, and it killed me every time. But it was the right decision at the time for me to go ahead and stop. My girls were young, so I was like, you know what, let me focus on them. So I wasn't, but I always knew in the back of my mind that I was going to get my master's. I was going to pursue further education, and I wanted to continue. But it's been really hard
I bet,
finding someone to take a chance on someone who's had a long gap.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Lowe's came in.
Mm-hmm.
So Lowe's was the only one that necessarily said, okay, we'll take you on as a fellow, and then hired me on. But, there's a value with someone who's more experienced and a little bit seasoned than the fresh ones. And I wanted to prove that to Lowe's when I came in. I was like, look, even though I'm a little bit late in the game, I'm just as good. I'm dedicated. I will give you everything, whether you tell me to mop the floor or you tell me to go in the front. I will do 100% whatever you say.
Well, I'm sure that was music to their ears.
I hope so, at least. But that's always been whether I was a therapist, whether I'm here, whether I'm at home. It's just, that's what I instill in my girls, because I want my girls to understand nothing's given to you.
Yeah.
The luckier that I am, the harder that I work. It's always been, don't let other people mold you in the sense you got to work for it. You got to make sure that you have that incentive and drive.
You mentioned something that I think a lot of people don't think about, and I think when people think of like a military spouse, they think of like the stress of having your significant other like overseas, but people probably don't think about the fact that you're always moving with them. Like you don't ever get to like stay put either.
Yeah. Well, prior to meeting my husband, I was a therapist. I was a single mother. Mm-hmm. So I had a successful career. I had just bought my own home. I had just finished my bachelor's on my own. Mm-hmm. And I was getting ready to actually pursue a doctorate in physical therapy as a single mom. Mm-hmm. And then funny thing, I met this guy that totally changed my world.
Oh, they do that.
It was totally worth it. It was totally worth it. But that being said, it was worth it, and I know that it was meant to be, and I wanted to pursue this with a passion, and so it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you say you're a mom?
Yes, 3 girls. My oldest is 29 years old,
okay, and
then my younger 2 are 15 and 13.
Awesome. I am a mom of a 2.5-year-old boy. And a girl coming in July, so I might need some girl mom tips. But
oh my goodness, you're gonna need a lot of prayers.
Those I already have for the first one, so I'll just add her on. So I know one thing about the military spouse program that Lowe's was highlighting is the fact that you can move around to different stores. Like, should you ever need to move again? Mm-hmm. I know your husband's retired, but was that something that you considered when taking the job? Like, how important is that to a military spouse, knowing they can move?
Well, that is actually pretty good, considering, like I said, I've had to quit many different jobs, and like I was trying to say prior was that, I had a career, mm-hmm. and then a lot of people had careers before they met their military husbands, and then we have to give them up.
Right.
So knowing that a corporation like Lowe's will carry on wherever you go, mm-hmm. So that's a major plus. But once we came here, we knew that we were basically going to retire here. So that's nice. It was nice to know, but we also knew that this was our sunset tour.
Yep. And what other challenges might people not realize about being a military spouse?
Well, they assume that we're super rich, that we have everything handed to us, that life is easier because everything's given to us, and it is the total opposite of that. Yeah. Especially when I was working as a therapist and my husband was deployed. He was literally deployed every year. He was deployed for 6 months, home for a year, 6 months, home for a year. And it was never a year because it was always 8 months.
Right.
And then they would do a bunch of training, and then he would deploy again.
Yeah.
So it's hard, especially when I was working full time with 2 little ones.
Yeah.
It got to the point where it made the decision better for me to quit at that time. Mm-hmm. But it's hard because, and to proving ourselves, because every time we get to work, they want to know, when does your husband leave again?
Right.
So it's always been the number one question I've always asked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be very tough.
Yeah.
And what branch of military was your husband in?
My husband was active duty Air Force. He was a combat controller.
Okay. Where's been your favorite place you guys have lived?
Florida. It is a place that we stayed for 11 years. I told my husband, I was like, I don't know what were you thinking about bringing me to Florida. I mean, that was your mistake.
Where are you from originally?
North Carolina. I've been all over the place. He's a military brat, so, but North Carolina is where we met, and that's where I stayed the longest.
Okay, nice. Yeah, my parents bought a place in Naples like a couple years ago, and it's now my favorite place to go.
Yes, it's beautiful down there.
Everyone's always like, we should go somewhere else for vacation. It's like, why? Why would we go anywhere else?
Yeah, I live in paradise. I don't need to.
There's no need. So what are you thinking? I know this is like your sunset tour, but where you hope to go with this job at Lowe's now? Like, do you want to keep moving up? Are you happy?
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, I did finish my master's, so
congratulations.
I didn't get my doctorate, which is totally fine, but I got my master's, and I got my master's in logistics and supply chain.
Oh, very
cool. So I definitely am pursuing that venue. So like I said, I was very happy with Lowe's that they gave me the opportunity and the work experience, but yes, because I'm in logistics and supply chain management, so I definitely want to keep progressing up the ladder, and I'm hoping to do it Lowe's.
That's awesome. That's perfect. I mean, that seems like a match made in heaven, actually. Well, that's great. Is there anything else about the program that you want to mention that you like or that you don't like, or?
The only thing was that the time restrictions where I felt like I think we had to do Monday to Thursday and then off Friday, but I understand the reasons why, because there's so much training that we would do on Fridays.
Yeah.
But it would limit me some of the training here. But that being said, I could take that. That was totally fine. And to be honest, as far as the program, I was just so grateful that I was given the opportunity and being able to be paid for, that was a plus. So I can't really say there was anything bad, and I loved every single minute of it.
And what advice would you give like another military spouse who's looking to get back into the workforce or into the workforce for the first time, and they see this program?
Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. People don't realize the value that there is in military spouses and the experiences and eclectic, and we meet people all over the world. We know different things, different personalities, we're different countries, so we have value with that, and we can bring that into our work environment because you work with different personalities, different people, and we have a broader understanding of that than being in the bubble that sometimes we are in.
And also, I would imagine you guys are just like very adaptable. Like people who move every 2 years have to be extremely adaptable.
Yeah. The thing is, and you're absolutely correct, for us, yes, and sometimes it gets a little tiresome. Always breaks my heart is my kids, because they make friends and then we got to go and leave again. But the good thing is the military community is a small community, and now with social media we get to keep up with a lot of our friends, even though one is in Korea right now, the other one's in Japan, this and that, and it's amazing. It's a small world.
Yes. Seems to be getting smaller every day.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to mention?
No, I really can't think of anything, to be honest.
Okay, do you have any photos of your, like, in your red vest or during your fellowship that you could share with me?
I put some on my LinkedIn. I can share, and then I can take some as well.
That would be awesome.
It was during my time as a fellow with my little reindeer, so.
Perfect. We'll take it.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it as well.
Have a good one.